What if I told you that your hard-earned savings were probably financing the main cause of climate change? And what if I told you that you could fix this without spending a single cent? We all have a bank account, we all have super, and some of us even have a giant HEX debt. But it's banks and superannuation funds that are the largest lenders to fossil fuel companies, and they use your savings to finance new coal, oil, and gas projects that lock in decades of carbon emissions. Divestment is the opposite of an investment. It involves withdrawing money from a particular company or industry on moral or financial grounds. Fossil fuel divestment is the newest tool in the fight for action on climate change, and its moral argument is irrefutable. A study by the Australian Climate Commission found that of all the world's declared fossil fuel reserves, we can only burn 1/5 to avoid the worst impacts of climate change. That means we need to keep 80% of all known fossil fuel reserves in the ground if we want a safe future. We simply can't invest our money in an industry that ignores the science and is set on blowing the planet's carbon budget with disastrous consequences. But you're probably thinking, what does fossil fuel divestment actually achieve? Until last month, the Commonwealth Bank was the financial advisor to Adani, an Indian company behind plans to build Australia's largest coal mine. After a divestment campaign which saw thousands of Commonwealth Bank customers move or threaten to move millions of dollars in savings to more sustainable banks, the Commonwealth Bank walked away from Adani, possibly spelling the end to Australia's biggest coal mine. Fossil fuel divestment is an exciting opportunity for individuals like you and me to take real action on climate change by speaking the language of the industry: money. But you might also be thinking, my bank wouldn't care if I divested, I'm just a student, I don't have any savings. Well, that's okay, because it's not just people, but institutions who are instructing their investment managers to get their money out of fossil fuel companies. In May this year, Norway's parliament ordered that the country's $900 billion sovereign wealth fund be divested from coal companies. $900 billion. Universities are also divesting, with Oxford University in the UK and Stanford University in the US divesting their endowment funds from coal companies. Fossil-Free QUT is a group of QUT students, staff and alumni calling on this university to divest its approximately $300 million investment fund from fossil fuel companies. Already over 1,000 QUT students and staff members have signed a petition, and more than 100 QUT academics have signed an open letter calling on QUT to divest. Because we're a smart group of people, and we're a clever university, but investing in an industry that we need to rapidly move away from to avoid the worst impacts of climate change is a dumb idea. Divestment, which aligns your investments with your values and shows real leadership on one of the most pressing issues of our time, is a smart idea. So whether it be your personal savings in your bank or your super, or the multi-million-dollar investment fund of a university, we can all use our money as a force for good and divest from fossil fuel companies.
I'm 1 foot on the boat, fear and hope in my heart. I mourn the mother I've left behind, and I cling to the promise of peace that this old fishing boat holds. I open my eyes, and I look at the man who tells the story of how he put his faith into the leaky promise of a better tomorrow. I am one in a minority of millions that has heard the story of somebody who came to Australia to find peace. I know that they are people who have fought hard for their freedom, often at the expense of their safety, the lives of loved ones, and their home. I know that they are grateful to be here and that they have much to give. I think it's a story that every Australian should hear. Imagine if, instead of being flooded with tales of a broken system in the hands of wicked politicians and newspapers, we could instead tell the stories of resilience and courage and unbelievable strength that belongs to the people who made it here alive. People who come to Australia by boat are more than refugees. They are students and advocates and professionals. And as I look at this audience of students and advocates and professionals, I say to you that we need to make more opportunities for people to tell the story of who they are outside of their boat ID. Put the conversation into the hands of those at the heart of it all and turn the conversation around. That's why I only have 1 minute up here. It's all that I need.
Apathy is poisonous. It is gross indifference which creates opportunity for chaos to settle in the world. It is empty complaints that pave the way for desensitization. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." Most of us exist between the extremes of the oppressed and the oppressor. We are the mediators, and within us is entrenched the ability to conceive thought and enough common sense to distinguish between good and ill. This is our privilege, and it demands us to care. It demands us to stand up and assume opposition against injustice, even when we're not being directly affected. No matter what delusions of self-sufficiency we feed ourselves, our lives are not our own. We mustn't forget that all the social and scientific progress of the last few centuries was as a result of our ability to think and act as a collective with a shared sense of compassion and understanding. We are interconnected and we are interdependent. Being passive at this crucial time will be the undoing of thousands of years' worth of fighting for equality, order, and reform. Consider history. The storming of the Bastille, the tearing down of the Berlin Wall, the African-American Civil Rights Movement, the Women's Liberation Movement, the LGBTIQ revolution, the rise of animal welfare, democratic equality, environmental conservation. The list goes on. We have come a long way from thinking that the world is flat and that women don't have souls. But it's not enough. It's not time to sit back right now and relax, because if we do, we run the risk of turning away everything our predecessors achieved. We need to function with the understanding that if it's happening somewhere else to someone else, it could happen here too. It could happen to me too. And the realization that good things happen not because someone felt something, but because they did something about it. We might leap into a fire to save someone if it happens in front of our eyes. But when we hear about Palestinians being driven out of their homes on the other end of the world, or of Filipino children being trafficked and forced into sex acts, our inclination to help is significantly lower. There's a small difference we can make every day of our lives through our actions and our choices. Something as simple as not taking the lift, or recycling, or taking the bus to work instead of driving. Save on the carbon emission. Sign that petition. It'll take you 1 minute. It's not a lot to do, but the beautiful thing about living on an overpopulated planet is that even the smallest action, when enacted by enough people, will be the difference. And this notion is something understood by all those who go on to become evolutionaries. It's something that Kate understands in her pursuit to positively engage with refugees. It's something that Mark understands in his mission to divest from fossil fuel companies. And now I need each and every one of you to understand that the line between a small amount of effort and none at all is paper thin. Yet the effect it has is vast enough to change the world. All it takes is one person willing to put their hands up, or in this case, 120 people willing to put their hands together. Thank you.